Mom, don't be texting me no scriptures when I'm waiting on a text from my fucking man. Oh, y'all, it's that time again. We are back for another review of Insecure. This time it's season 3, episode 7, called Obsessed Like. And before I get into the review, also, if you like reviews of this show and you want to see other people review it, please check out my girl, My Twisted Life TV with Poetry. She does some great reviews of any show that she reviews, but she does great reviews of Insecure. That is my girl dog in the background. She just woke up. This episode starts off with Issa totally tripping. Rocco, get out of here! Because she hasn't heard from Nathan in a week. And it's really messed up because it's like he just disappeared out of, into thin air or whatever, after apparently they were talking like every single day. And I mean, I've been there before. I think the ladies have probably all been there before at some point, just waiting on a call or a text from a guy, and it's like every time your phone makes any sound, it's like, oh my gosh, is it him, is it him? And so, but I think that Issa really, really, really needs to get over it at this point, because they weren't together for that long. I think like in the course of this season, maybe it's been like 2 weeks at the most that they've been together. She needs to stop tripping over him and get focused on her block party, but I get it, the heart wants what it wants, it does what it does, and she can't get focused. And all throughout this episode, we see her dreaming about her teeth falling out, so I had to look that up and see what it meant. And it says about teeth falling out that indicates a time of change and feelings of loss. Teeth falling out are symbols of costly compromise and lack of balance in your life. And I can see that being Issa right about now. So then later we see Molly on a date with Andrew, and he asks her why she's been dodging him, and she tells him that it's because she's embarrassed about how she acted in front of him at Coachella. Andrew looks at that as a positive and says because basically they've both seen each other's wild sides or kind of at their worst, that they can both just relax and keep it real with each other from this point. And then we get to a scene with post-chlamydia Lawrence, and he's rethinking his whole life now. And now I guess it's the phase where we try to get it right with the Lord. And so he tells Chad that he's going to go to church. Chad tells him that he'll go with him because there's going to be bitches there. And I promise you, Chad is that friend that your man has that you hate him hanging out with. But as a character on this show, he is comedy gold. Then later we see Issa still obsessing over Nathan and trying to get his attention in an indirect way since she can't call him and get him or text him and get him. So she's trying to... she posts what she believes is a sexy picture on Instagram, and I'm like, girl, I guess. But of course, she's waiting to see if he likes it or if he comments, and the first comment that she gets is her brother telling her to burn that shirt, and I agree. And then we get Frida telling her, OMG, like I have the same shirt. And then after getting no response from who she wanted the response from, Nathan, we find out that the girls, Issa, I guess, and Molly and Kelly and Tiffany have an Instagram stalker account for all 4 of them to log in to check up on people. And Issa's trying to log into that account so that she can, I guess, track some of Nathan's moves, and she goes in to send him a DM, something like asking about what his eggplant is like or something, not realizing that she hasn't logged out of her own account. And so she hurry up and deletes the message. I'm willing to bet that Nathan saw that message. Issa is such a fucking dork. Then we get back to another Molly and Andrew date. And y'all, I tell y'all, that Andrew, he is really nice looking to me. I mean, physically, and then there's just something about his demeanor that's really sexy. Anyway, Molly shows up looking pretty sexy herself with a whole lot of legs showing. And they start talking. They're kind of like ragging on each other, just joking, with little digs at each other. And Molly brings up how she remembers that Andrew told him that he kissed one of his homeboy's girls, and she called him grimy for that. And he's basically like, well, you must be my grimy match then, because as I recall, you told me that you were sleeping with your married friend. And then Molly sat there and had the nerve to get offended because he brought that up. And she told Andrew that, she's not grimy and that he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand the situation. So Andrew entertains the bullshit and says, okay, so explain it to me. And so then she says, well, he made me believe that it was something that it wasn't. And Andrew's like, okay, so you're saying a married man led you on? And with the tone, it's basically like, girl, do you hear how stupid you sound? And of course she gets angry with that. Molly is so fucking annoying when it comes to Dro and really everything at this point, even her job, and we'll get to that later. But from day one with Dro, it's like Molly's been waiting on somebody to co-sign this bullshit ass relationship of hers, and then she gets upset when people don't co-sign the bullshit. And I guess Molly was hoping that Andrew would see her as the victim in this marriage in which she inserted herself, when really it's like, girl, what were you expecting from a married man? How could he lead you on if you already knew that he was married? It's not like you were messing around with him and then 3 months later you find out, oh, he's married. You knew, so like, did he tell you that he was leaving his wife for you? Girl, shut up. And so I was 100% here for Andrew just keeping it real with her. And like the spoiled little stupid bitch that Molly is, she got up from the table and left him there. She pulled a Wanda Smith on him, if you think about it. And if I would have been in that restaurant watching that go down, without a date myself, I think I would have just slid right on into Molly's seat like, hey boy, what's going on? I see your girl's tripping. So Issa is at home and still continuing to obsess about Nathan. I mean, the episode's called Obsessed Like, right? So much to the point that she overslept 20 minutes, and she's 20 minutes late for one of her property management appointments with the plumber. And after all of her antics on Instagram the day before, she now sees that somebody has tagged Nathan and thanked him for the nice haircut that he got, and that was today. And so she knows that he's around, he's still doing his thing, he's still cutting hair. So I'm sure that made her feel sick to her stomach. And I guess that's how I would feel if I've been looking for somebody, where are you, I haven't heard from you, and you out here still living your life, cutting hair, just doing what you do. So apparently now we know that Nathan's not in jail, and I know that I saw that a lot of people thought that. There were a couple of comments on my last week's review to that end, and then even on Twitter I saw that a lot of people were saying, oh, Nathan's in jail, and so, but like I mentioned last week, that wouldn't have explained him being able to call Lyft to clear up the situation about the assault in Issa's car, unless he used his one jail phone call to call Lyft because he loves Issa so much that he wanted to get that investigation cleared up. Now we're back at work with Molly, and previously we saw her having a conversation with Torian about some presentation that they were going to do together. And from the sounds of it, she was able to pull a lot of it together, I guess so much to the point where she can do the presentation by herself if she needed to, and she throws that out to Torian. He tells her no, he wants to look everything over first, but he has another obligation. But when one of Molly's superiors, I guess, passes by her office, she throws out the suggestion that, hey, she can do the presentation by herself. So he's like, okay, good idea, so I'll call a meeting. And he does that, and we find out when Issa calls Molly that she killed the presentation at work. So basically, Molly has made an enemy of everyone at work. And why? Because she has this ridiculous need to shine instead of being a team player. And when this blows up in her face, I will not feel sorry for her at all. We already see by the end of the episode that Torian is not talking to Molly. And so I'm just thinking to myself, okay, one more enemy at work, just what Molly needed, right? And I'm all for people doing what they need to do to advance their careers, especially women, but do it with ethics, not by crushing the people you work with. Molly, you can't complain about Torian with the other ladies, or even to yourself or to Issa, and then just simply become the female version of him. I don't like it. So why is Issa calling Molly? Because she's stupid. She's not focused on what she needs to be, and she wants to take some time out of Molly's work day when she needs to be working herself to go and stalk Nathan. So apparently Nathan and Andrew are roommates. I didn't pick up on that from the Coachella episode. I thought that they were just friends. But anyway, they get to Andrew's house, and they're there under the guise that Molly wants to make a peace offering to Andrew with some kind of cheesy filled pastry. And Issa is standing next to Molly at the front door looking like a total fucking bum. I don't understand why she couldn't at least have combed her hair and put on some real clothes instead of her pajamas. It's not like she had done anything productive all day. She could have at least made herself look like something, mainly for self-respect, but also on the off chance that she might get to see Nathan. And so Molly's at the door, she holds up her little peace offering to Andrew, and he's kind of looking at her like, what the fuck, you know? And so Issa's standing next to Molly, like I said, looking like a crackhead, and asks if she can use his restroom. He invites her in, and she walks right past the restroom and goes upstairs to Nathan's room. And was I the only one thinking, okay, are we still supposed to think that maybe she's using another restroom, but we're thinking that they're thinking or at least Andrew's thinking she's in there for a really long time. Like, what do you want Andrew to think you're doing in there? Gross. But anyway, that's what was in my mind. So Issa's creeping around Nathan's room like a weirdo while Molly and Andrew are downstairs in the kitchen, and she is forgiving him for what he said to her. And he's like, excuse me? You know, basically he lets her know, I don't know who the hell you are. Out of all the Mollys that are in your little head, is there one of them who isn't fucked up? And of course, naturally, that makes her upset. She gets upset again. And meanwhile, upstairs, Issa, after having already gone through Nathan's drawers and considering going through his trash, she's up there trying to break into his laptop now. And thankfully, that's when Molly walks in and asks her, what the hell is she doing? So they get to Issa's car, and Molly's like, girl, look, talk to me. What's the deal? And Issa tells her that she feels like she was too real with Nathan, I guess too real too fast, and that fucked everything up. And Molly says, well, look, if you're being real with him, ran him off, then you need to just let it go. He's not the one for you. But Issa lets her know that Nathan is the only person who she's been around who doesn't make her feel like a complete fuck up. And that being said, I can understand her obsession with him. But she still needs to get it together. But I get it because, like I mentioned earlier in the season, out of all of Issa's peer group, Issa does seem to be the one who has it least together when it comes to adulting. And so I guess that Nathan made her feel like she could pursue her dreams and get on the same level as the rest of her friends, or even beyond where they are. So even though he was cute and the sex was good, he represented a whole lot more to Issa, and she probably feels like he could have been instrumental in helping her get to that next level because he was helping her out, and it did appear that he believed in everything that she wanted for herself. So I'll give her a pass, but she's still got to move on, right? So let's talk about church. Lawrence and Chad went, and Lawrence wasn't really feeling the sermon, and frankly, neither was I. I really hate when pastors go overboard to show you that they are down and with it. You know, okay, we get it. Our pastor knows what trap music is. He knows how Instagram works. He's really down to earth. Blah, blah, blah. I hate that shit. But of all people, Chad got touched by the Holy Ghost, or else he was putting on a show to get some hoes, because as he was pointing out during the sermon, that bitch is fine, that hoe is fine, that hoe look good, right? And so he decided to rededicate his life to Christ on that first Sunday back in church. And Lawrence met a girl who's a member of the church. She approached him, and now they're going out on this date, and he finds out that she's in this ministry, and she's in that ministry, and this ministry, and that ministry. And this probably isn't going to work for him. And then later we see that she texts him, is she going to see him at Bible study, you know? And he says he'll let her know. He probably won't go. Then, thank goodness, Issa we believe we see her finally coming to terms with the probability that Nathan will not be in touch anymore. So she unfollows him on Instagram and she deletes his telephone number and finally starts moving on with her life. And we see her get to that entrepreneurship workshop. And hopefully this means that her focus is back where it needs to be. Issa really, in my opinion, needs to leave men alone completely and just fully get on her feet and do something great. She needs a win. Then we see Issa hop over to Lawrence's job to thank him for giving her the information on the workshop. I guess, did he do that last week at the baby shower? I remember them talking business, but not that in particular. So she asks him if he'd like to have coffee with her, and they do. He says he'd like to. And cute that she remembered what he likes to drink and everything. They sit down and they just talk, and he asks her about driving for Lyft. Is it good money? And at first I think she does say yes, but then for some reason all the walls come down and she just opens up and tells him the truth. No, it's not easy. It's hard. The money doesn't come easy. And after I moved out of my apartment, I was sleeping on people's couches. It has been rough. But I'm trying to get to a point where I can do things for myself, and he lets her know that he understands completely where she is. And then he starts talking about how he went to church, but he thinks that maybe it's not for him. And she encourages him to just try to find another church. It's not that church isn't for you, but maybe just that church isn't for you. So stop trying to find the easy way out like you always do, and put in some effort and, find the church that you like. And so he tells her that he'll do that. And it's nice to see them being friends right now. And I hope that it just stays just right there. So that was pretty much the episode. If I left out anything that was important or anything that you want to talk about, please put it in the comments and let's discuss. Next week is going to be the season finale. What would you like to see happen? What do you think is really going to happen? Let's just get a discussion going in the comments. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate you all for being here, and I'll see you next week for the finale. Have a good week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thanks for stopping by Tested with Ty.